So if you want to have relationships, friendships, whatever kind of ships where there's better and more effective communication, the best thing for you to do is for you to learn how to be a good communicator or a more effective communicator or an improved communicator. What's up, queens, kings, ladies, gents, people who hold themselves accountable, and people who do not jump to the defense? Welcome to my self-love and ammunition station. It's your girl, Breezy Time. Yes, ma'am. I am super excited today because today is Tough Love Tuesday, and y'all know what that means. It means I'm going to be dropping some truth bombs because today is Truthful Tuesday. Truthful Tuesday is specifically for the queens and some of the kings out there, because I know y'all be out there who want to take their life into their own hands and stop focusing on everything outside of you and the things that you can't control and focus on the only thing that you can control, which is yourself. Okay, and learning how to take accountability for the things that you're going through so that you can control your own destiny and so that you can create the life that you want. Okay, because let's be clear, y'all, nobody is going to be able to give you or create for you the life that you want. You have to do it yourself. Okay, so I'm Breezy Time. I am the podcast host for the All Queens Army podcast. I'm also the content creator and coach behind allqueensarmy.com, little plug in there, whatever. So if you're interested in any of the tools, any of the online courses, any of the resources that I've created, click the link below so that you can get access to my private page of life hacks for the Life Hack headquarters, and that is specifically for my very important queens, my VIQs. Okay, so what are we talking about today? What can we take accountability for to change something for the positive in our own lives? What is one of the things? Today is communication. Yes, ma'am. We're talking about communication, and we're talking about how to learn how to be a more effective communicator, because remember, everything that you do well, everything that you're able to improve for yourself, you'll wind up attracting back to yourself. Okay, so if you want to have relationships, friendships, whatever kind of ships where there's better and more effective communication, the best thing for you to do is for you to learn how to be a good communicator or a more effective communicator or an improved communicator, okay? Because some of us actually aren't bad communicators, but there's some areas that we could improve and get a little bit better, okay? So remember, investing in yourself, learning how to do things better, learning how to do the things that you want to receive is a super duper life hack. Okay, so let's get into it. How to be a better or more effective or improved communicator. Let's go. All right, so there are 10 things that I'm going to give you, and I'm going to fly through them, so pay attention because you might miss something. Okay, so here's the first thing. Yep, right. Listen, if you listen to the All Queens Army podcast or you are on any of the All Queens Army social media pages, you already knew that I was going to say right, because that's my thing. You need to write down what it is that you want to talk about, okay? And I suggest writing in bullet points. The reason that you want to write things down is so that you can take everything that's going on in your mind that you want to be able to articulate, that you want to be able to share, that you want to be able to say, and you want to put it on paper so that you're able to get your thoughts clear. It's really difficult to try to communicate from memory because, you know, sometimes you have conversations with people and you ever turn around and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to say this, or oh man, I should have said that. Well, that will prevent you from feeling that way. So write it down. There's nothing wrong with that. If you don't like writing and you're more of a technical person, then you can put it in your notes section in your phone, or you can type it or email it to yourself or something like that. The bottom line is write it down, get it out of your mind and on something tangible so that you have a list of the things that you want to talk about. Okay, on to number 2. So this one is actually something that you're going to do internally in your mind. You're going to set an intention, okay? You're going to create an intention around your communication and around your conversation to listen, to understand, and talk to be understood. Yes, that sets up for a great conversation. if you put that in your mind to actually have a conversation with the intention of understanding the person. See, understanding is not about being right. Understanding is not about proving the other person wrong. Understanding is not about determining who's wrong or who's right, or you getting some sort of a victory from the conversation. See, that's why communication gets all messed up sometimes, because most of the time people go into conversations with trying to get what they want to get out of the conversation, as opposed to understanding that conversations and communications are a two-way street. You give and you take, okay? You receive and you give. There has to be a two-way street. See, if you go into a conversation with someone and you have a set of expectations of what you want to get out of it, or what you expect that person to do, right? You expect them to admit that they're wrong. You expect them to take on some sort of accountability. I'm not saying that that can't happen. What I'm saying is that if you go into the conversation with that as your expectation, then you're setting yourself up for failure, okay? You may create some energy that causes the other person to be defensive or to feel attacked, okay? So what you want to do is create the intention to create the energy around yourself, to create a mood around the conversation that says that you're open to receiving what the other person has to say. Because if you go into it and you're open to receiving what the other person has to say, then 9 times out of 10, they will mirror that same energy and they will be open to receiving what you have to say, okay? Remember, we cannot control other people. The only thing that we can control is ourselves, and our environment actually curates itself based on what we give off. So if we give off that we're open to receiving, that we're open to listening, that we're open to hearing other people's perspective, then we will attract people being that same way to us, okay? Because that's the intent. When you go and you talk to people, you want to be heard. You want to be understood. You want people to understand how you feel, potentially apologize, take ownership. But remember, you have to lead in with that same level of energy. So that's thing number 2, okay? Make sure that you create an intention in your mind. How do you do that? Just say it. Say it over and over and over again. Write it down. Write down what the intention is. Write down a sentence. It's like an affirmation, and repeat it over and over and over again right before you're actually going to have that conversation, okay? Number 3 is set time aside to talk, okay? So let the person know that you'd like to have a conversation, and then you guys come up with a time that's equally, mutually agreeable for the two of you. A time when you feel that you can talk and be open, where you can talk and be vulnerable, when you can talk and you can express yourself minus a whole bunch of emotion, okay? When I say a whole bunch of emotion, I don't mean emotionless. I just mean that you're not angry about whatever it is that you're talking about anymore. You've let those negative emotions kind of subside a little bit. You've gotten over them and gotten yourself into a more stable mindset, okay? So that's what you want to do. That's number 3, is set some time aside to talk. Let's go into number 4. Now this one is all about listening without judgment, okay? Listen to what the other person has to say. Of course, you're already prepared to talk about the bullet points that you've written down. If you did your homework, okay? If you did what we talked about, you're already prepared, okay? But you have no idea what the other person is going to say, and you have no control over what they're going to say, how they're going to react, what some of their feelings are going to be, or their perspective. So make it a point to not listen with judgment, okay? In other words, don't take your beliefs, your thoughts, the way you were raised, what you think is right, how things should be done from your perspective, and push that onto another person, okay? Listen, we're all brought up in different ways by different families with different values and different morals. Some of us have grown up in different environments. So what's normal to one may not be the same thing that's normal to another. And just because something that someone is doing may not mesh with your values, or may not be something that you grew up doing, or may not make sense as far as you're concerned, or may not meet your standards, it doesn't make it wrong. Okay, and it doesn't mean that we should judge people and be icky towards them because these are their thoughts, all right? So again, make sure when you go in to have a conversation and communicate that you're not communicating with judgment, okay? You have to take off your perception glasses and just be able to see things from other people's perspective. Again, creating that intention to listen, to hear a person, to have compassion for what it is that they're saying. So that leads me right into number 5. So number 5 is all about not getting defensive. Don't get defensive. If you guys listen to the very beginning of every video that I make, I talk about this is a space for people to not get defensive about what it is that I'm saying, that someone else is saying. You guys have to learn how to stop getting so defensive. Don't attack people because what they're saying to you may not feel good. If you're a defensive person when people are telling you how they feel, or telling you maybe something that you did that hurt their feelings, or telling you something that maybe you did that they didn't think was right, if you go on attack mode, or you get defensive, or you try to tell them that they're wrong, it means that you're not ready for growth. It means that you're not listening. It means that you expect for communication in the relationships that you're in to be one-sided, to your benefit and your benefit only. You have to learn, queens, that relationships, friendships, all kinds of ships are two-way streets. Like I said, they're give and they're take, okay? So there are going to be things that you do, because you're not perfect, neither am I, far from perfect, okay? There are going to be things that you do that other people don't like. There are going to be things that you do, or things that you say, or ways that you behave that other people find offensive or rude or hurtful. And we have to be open to hearing those things from people. If someone tells you that that's what you're doing, or that's how you're making them feel, you have to be open to hearing that if you want other people to give you that same energy. If you want people to listen to you, to hear you out, to make adjustments when you tell them that something they're doing is bothering you or hurting you, then you have to do the same thing. You have to lead in with the same energy so that you can attract relationships and people like that. If you don't do it, then you'll always get exactly what you're giving. So if you give off defensiveness when people are trying to communicate with you, you're always going to get defensiveness back in return, okay? So make sure you check yourself on that one. Don't get defensive when you're approaching someone with a conversation, or with your feelings, or with your expectations, and they don't agree, or they have a different perspective, or they want to, say their piece or speak their mind. Don't get defensive and shut people down. Again, learn how to listen, listen, listen. That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, because we're supposed to listen more than we talk. All right? Okay. So let's keep it moving to number 6. Number 6 is all about being, honest, open, and direct. Be able to communicate your needs, your wants, your feelings, your expectations, and whatever else it is that you want to say. Communicate that directly, okay? Don't sugarcoat it. Don't BS through it. Say what it is. Now, I'm not saying be direct and hurtful and nasty in the way you communicate, but be very direct. Here's an example. If someone says something that hurts your feelings, don't laugh and joke about what they said. Don't make self-deprecating comments about what they said in any funny kind of way. What a lot of us do is when we get uncomfortable confronting people or talking to people, we make jokes out of it. We make light out of it. We beat around the bush and we sugarcoat it. And see, when you communicate that way, people actually don't take you because you're not saying how you feel seriously. So what you want to do is be very direct and straightforward with how you feel. If someone hurts your feelings, you want to lead in the conversation and say, when you told me XYZ, and you said that, you can even insert in there when it happened, okay? So let's start over. Hey, when you tell me that I don't make enough money to support our family, you said it a couple weeks ago when we were talking to your mom. It actually hurts my feelings when you say that, because you've never said it to me directly. You waited until we were sitting with your mom and you said it in front of your mom. That really made me feel bad. Okay, insane. So that's just an example, okay? That's just an example of how you want to communicate directly. Say exactly how you feel. Don't laugh in it. Don't make it a joke. Try not to smile. I know that's going to be hard for some of you because, again, so many people have an issue with just directly confronting a problem, which that's a whole nother problem in and of itself, right? So make sure that you speak directly and say exactly how you feel, exactly what you want, exactly what it is that you want to change, what you need. Express yourself, okay? And do it in an open way. Again, guys, make sure you're speaking with compassion, right? When you go to talk to people and tell them how you feel, try not to cut them down, right? Try not to be condescending. Try not to be sarcastic. Try not to say things in a hurtful way. Truth does not mean rude. Honesty and direct communication does not mean condescending. All right. So make sure when you're talking to people, you're speaking to them in a respectful way, but a very direct way at the same time. Okay. So here's number 7. So now that you've said exactly what you need, how you feel, and you've expressed yourself, now it's the other person's turn to be able to do the same. So for number 7, this one is all about, be open to hearing how the other person feels. Be open to hearing their needs and their wants. Be open to hearing that, some things that you're doing may not be what's working for them either. Okay, remember, this is the two-way street. What I hear a lot is people saying that, well, if I'm coming to the person and I'm saying how I feel, it's not the right time for them to tell me how they feel. I kind of disagree with that, okay? I kind of disagree with that. I agree that if you're telling someone how you feel, that they shouldn't say, well, you do it too, and what about you? Because then that means they're not hearing what you're saying, and I don't think you should do that either, okay? So I kind of agree with it from that perspective, where you're not hearing what the other person is saying, you're just shifting the blame and saying that they do it too, which may be true, right? It may be true. Most of the times it is true, because you're attracting what you're giving off, and that's the mirror, right? The mirror effect that we talked about in relationships. So it definitely may be true. But the reason that I don't agree with it is because of this. If you're coming to communicate with someone, again, it's a two-way street. So you can't expect that the person's just going to sit and listen to everything you have to say and not have anything to say, okay? Sometimes what people do is they're trying to explain that the way you feel is not what their intention was. And what we receive when people are doing that is that they're not listening, and that they're getting defensive, and that they're trying to shift the blame back to you, and they're not owning it. And that's not always true. So there's a fine balance there. There's a fine little line there. That's something that you personally are going to have to decide what's too much and what's too little of the receiving part of the communication. But for me, if I go to my husband or my friends or my mom or any of my family members and I'm talking to them, I don't have an expectation that they're not going to have anything to say. They may have some feedback for me too. And I just think it's really important to be open to that. Okay. All right. Number 8. 8 is my favorite number. Number 8 is oh, I know some people are not gonna love this, but it's real, honey. Let's be clear. Sometimes when you go to talk to people about something because you're upset or you need to get something off of your chest, you will learn something. If you're ready for this type of evolution, if you're ready for this type of maturity, if you're ready for these types of relationships, you may hear something that you've done that you might have to apologize for, or that you need to apologize for, or that it's just the right thing to do to apologize. So please humble yourself to the point where you are willing to apologize if necessary. Again, when you have these conversations, you never know exactly how they're gonna go or the way they're gonna go, because you have no control over other people. So there could be an opportunity for you to apologize as well. All I'm saying is just be open to it if that is the case, okay? All right, number 9. Number 9 is probably the hardest one for a lot of you. It used to be really hard for me too, because I got a trucker's mouth, baby. But number 9 is ding! Yes. Do not argue. Do not yell. Do not curse. Oh, baby. For some of us, that is hard as yes, it is. It's hard. It's hard when you don't feel like you're being heard. It's hard when the other person is combating what you're saying. It's not easy to not get into an argument, right? It's so easy to be baited into an argument. Queens, I'm telling you, if you get to a point where it turns into an argument, yeah, it's not going to be effective. You might as well just abort mission and try again later, okay? That's it. All right. Last but not least, numero 5? Is that it? 10? I don't know. Number 10. This is one of my favorite things to do. Yep. Recap the conversation, okay? Once you listen to the person and what they have to say in retaliation to your conversation or communication or feelings or thoughts, once they actually begin to communicate back to you, listen. Remember, we're supposed to be listening and being open, no judgment, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing. No judgment, no defensive, just listening when the person actually starts to speak back and starts to respond to what it is that we initially led the conversation off with, okay? So when you do that, recap Recap the conversation. Recap what the person said. The reason that you want to do that is because you're trying to make sure that what you think they said, right? What you heard. Remember, when people talk and when people do things, everything that you see in life, it goes through a filter. It goes through a filter of your ears. It goes through a filter of your eyes. It goes through a filter of your own senses. And the filter is your own experiences, your own beliefs, your own thoughts, your own everything, your own culture, all of that, right? Creates a filter. So sometimes when people are saying things, you may not be hearing what it is that they're saying, or you may not have interpreted what they're saying as what they intended. Okay, and that's what creates so many communication problems in relationships. It's not for lack of communication, it's for lack of understanding the other person's intent and the way that they're communicating, okay? So again, let's not be judgmental about how a person communicates. People only know what they know. They don't know, everybody doesn't know how to communicate good. If you communicate good, you may not communicate good, but your partner may communicate good. Hey, we're all meeting each other and meeting people at different places in our lives. So some people may not be great communicators and they may not be good articulators of their emotions, of their feelings, and of their thoughts. How you may not be a good articulator, but here's the thing, that's okay. That's okay. That's why the most important step in communicating is to recap what you heard so that you can say it back to the person to make sure that you're understanding what they're saying. Because if you repeat back to them what you think you heard or what you think they're trying to say, if it's not right, they have an opportunity to say, no, that's not what I mean, or no, that's not what I'm saying. And once that person gets to that point, then they can try to re-explain it in a way that may help you understand it a little bit better, okay? And vice versa. Hopefully, over time, the person that you're talking to can learn that same thing where they can recap what you're saying so that you can clear it up if they didn't get it right, okay? So again, it's a very, very important step. Super duper duper helpful. I didn't used to do it. I didn't used to communicate that way, but now I communicate that way with everyone and I recap what they say to make sure that I understand, because if I don't have it right, then they can correct me and say, well, no, that's not what I mean. Here's what I mean. And sometimes we'll kind of have to bat back and forth like a little tennis match until we get it. And see, a lot of people think that that's called arguing. Well, it's not arguing. It's just having a conversation because maybe I don't understand what you're saying. And that's okay. Okay. So one of the things that I want people to understand is that relationships take work and take effort. We have to kill that idea that, oh, relationships shouldn't be this hard, or if it's too hard, it's too much. That's not necessarily always true, okay? It does take effort and it does take work. And that's because you have two people trying to understand one another and actually have a successful relationship. And here's the thing about it, guys. You're two totally different people, two different levels of understanding. Most of us want people to understand us the way we are. Okay, and here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with that. We should want people to understand us the way that we are. We should want people to love us the way we are. That's what genuine, true, unconditional love is. But we also have to keep in mind that we have to give love the same way. We have to love other people the same way. We have to allow people to be flawed and not to be as evolved as we are in every single aspect of life, and not expect them to do things the way we think they should be done, or what our group of friends or what our family does, or what, you know, our job does and what our life exists of. There's so many different facets of life, okay? And I would hate for people to miss out on wonderful opportunities, on great people, on love, and on all kinds of beautiful experiences just because we're not opening our mind up enough to be willing to work with people when they want to work with us. And see, that's the key. We have to be willing to put the effort and the time in to people who also are willing to put the effort and the time in, okay? So if you're with someone, or if someone in your family, or whomever it is that you're trying to communicate with is someone who's willing to ride it out with you, to weather the storm, to really work to understanding one another and creating communication foundations in your relationship where you can grow baby, do the work, okay? Do the work. It's not easy, but it's worth it, okay? If you have the right person. And listen, communication will show you whether or not you have the right person in your life that you're trying to grow something with, okay? So with that being said, queens and kings, because I know y'all out there, that's it for today's Tuesday Truth Bomb. I hope you got something out of this. I love you so much. I will talk to you next Tuesday. Y'all. So if you have not listened to the All Queens Army podcast, link below. Go ahead and subscribe. It's the bomb, baby. If you want access to some free online courses, to some free resources that actually help you step by step work through some of these types of problems and things that we talk about here on Truthful Tuesday, then click below, get access to my private page of life hacks. It is absolutely free. And I will see you queens on the other side. I love you so much. Talk to you later. Bye.